Welcome one and all to another edition of the Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. The heat, the rains, the humidity are here, and they're not going away anytime soon. That's not the dream for our homes or offices, but what is a dream for our homes and offices when it comes to water issues or fire issues? Water Cleanup of Florida, you got it. 954-579-0356 is that number you want to call 24 hours a day. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They will get the job done for you. Water Cleanup of Florida, 954-579-0356. Michael, George, Robert, their entire team, vastly over 60 years of combined experience, plus with certified, insured, licensed contractors. They will not only get the job done, they'll not only communicate in a great manner, which I never really had with service companies until I met the people at Water Cleanup of Florida, but they'll make it look brand new. 954-579-0356. Check them out on their website, WCUFL.com, on the socials at Water Cleanup FL. If you have the schmutz, Water Cleanup of Florida has the guts. Miami Dolphins are trying to get in the world of gutsy South Florida franchises like the Miami Heat. The Florida Marlins, the Miami Marlins even won more recently than the Dolphins. And the Florida Panthers, reigning Stanley Cup champions. They've spent a lot of money. They've made a lot of moves. Year 3 of Mike McDaniel, Chris Perkins from the Sun Sentinel, Miami Dolphins columnist, joined us today to talk about the Dolphins through the preseason and what he is looking for from them this upcoming season. The Defo Show with Lubie here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
We welcome him from the Sun Sentinel, the Dolphins columnist. The great Chris Perkins joins us here on a audio performance only. Chris, how are you, my friend?
Gentlemen, I'm doing good. I'm sitting here rewatching the Dolphins game. I've already written a column this morning. They pushed practice back to 12:45, and actually they're not having practice today. Maybe it's because people are so injured, but they're going to bring some players up to the podium, and we will talk to them. So, yeah, getting an early start on an altered game plan here.
Very nice. All right. And this is a kind of scrambling Tarkenton-esque that you have to do when you are the preeminent columnist. And on a day where there's really probably nothing to write about. Lubie and I were just saying this before you came on, and I'm surprised. And he alluded to the fact that you saw 10 wins possibly as a ceiling for this team. I don't know if it's a fair assumption to, go ahead and give them the 2 wins against the Patriots. But, the Patriots are really bad or appear to be. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what condition the team's going to show up in. But seems to me, I'm reading some very pessimistic accounts for a team that supposedly has not only an explosive offense, an offensive core, but has 3 guys that are really happy that they're that core in Tua, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle, who all got the money. So there's no acrimony there. It's let's go get them, guys. Win one for the Kipper. What do you make of it, Chris? Is there just so far, in your opinion, a low ceiling for what appears to be, I think, the team to bet to win the AFC East?
I've got them with 10 wins. I just did my season prediction just like maybe 20 minutes ago, as a matter of fact, and I have them at 10-7. But I don't think that 10 should be their ceiling. I think that's realistically what they'll come in at. I think, look, with this roster, the ceiling should be like 12, right?
Yeah.
And the floor should be like 8.
Yep.
But look, to me, it's all about, are you going to win a playoff game? I love that Steve Ross said they should be Super Bowl contenders if they stay healthy. Yep. Me and Dave Hyde and David Peronas were just debating this on my podcast, Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk, sunsentinel.com.
Off the deep end? What was that?
Deep dive.
We always hated when they did deep dives on our show. They didn't get too far before they found something wrong. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that what we have right now is a younger Dolphins fan base that is more concerned with being entertained than win. And to me, there's just like so much satisfaction when the Dolphins fans, especially the younger fans, talk about the number 1 offense and Tua led the league in passing yards and Tua led the league in passer rating. And I'm just like, well, but where are the playoff wins? Oh, the Dolphins are great on social media. Oh, I love Tyreek.
It's always a tough comeback.
On TikTok, and I think the fans are so complacent and happy with this team that Mike McDaniel is a funny coach and his press conferences are funny. And I'm just looking at them like, okay, you all got these contract extensions. Where are the playoff wins? Like that, isn't that how you measure success? But I do really think that there's a younger generation and a sports fan in general. I'm not just saying Dolphins fans, that they want to be entertained more than they demand victories, playoff wins from their team. And look, the Dolphins are maybe the most entertaining team in the NFL, right? I mean, the fun touchdown celebrations and all that. But I'm very old school and hardcore. I want to see some playoff wins. I'm glad Steve Ross said that.
Well, the thing, and it's clearly, look, they have issues in December, January. They weather, whatever it is. To me, it's right about when the offensive and defensive line gets hurt. Like the offensive line, by the time we got to late December last year, was, I think, missing 3 or 4 starters. By the time we played the Chiefs, I'm going to say I'm a Dolphins fan. By the time they played the Chiefs, I think they were down 4 starters, if not all 5, from the beginning of the season, because Connor Williams wasn't even there as a center. So I don't know if they had any of their starters starting healthy, at least. I mean, maybe Armstead might have gutted it out, but he was not himself. Armstead was a sieve of himself by the end of the season. And their defensive line, they were missing their top 3 pass rushers. Van Ginkel got hurt in the game. They didn't have Chubb, and they didn't have Phillips. So to me, it's easy to say they're just not winning. Yeah, when you don't have your offensive defensive line back-to-back years, it's hard to win those games. Now, the question can remain, if it's every year that they're hurt at these positions, is it just them? And that's my thing. And I like that, even though I don't always agree with Stephen Ross these days, that is exactly how I feel. I think the roster, if you go player for player, yeah, they lost Wilkins, but outside of the defensive line, they really recovered with all of their losses, and their roster's as talented as any roster. If you look at point-blank talent, the problem is they don't stay healthy, and that is now a yearly trend, and I don't know if they can just magically overcome that this season.
Yeah, I hear you, Lubie. Look, I think that the injury thing is real, but I also think it's kind of a made-up boogeyman. And here's why. Because I keep going to this, that over the 2-year period, they're 3-12 against playoff teams.
Yeah,
that's not, if you're, 8-7 or 7-8, okay, injuries are a factor. 3-12. And again, I keep saying this, the perfect metaphor for the Mike McDaniel era is that 2-week period when they beat Denver 70-20, and the next week they go to Buffalo with Tua, with everybody healthy, and you get blasted 48-20. Now, Connor Williams, Liam Eichenberg started that game at center because Connor got hurt against Denver, but and all anybody remembers is the 70-20. Oh, they scored 70 points. It's like, but the next week you went on the road against a good team and got blasted, and this great offense didn't show up. They scored 2 touchdowns. And to me, that's the problem with this team, is that you can make whatever excuse you want about injuries and cold weather, and Tua was injured, and the offensive line, they don't show up against the good teams. And by the way, the offensive line last year, your team gave up 31 sacks, tied for 4th fewest, and you rushed for 135 yards a game, 6th best. So the offensive line can't be that bad.
No, the line was actually pretty good until it got hurt.
Chris Perkins, wow. I mean, talk about a little shade going on, my opinion, that the Dolphins are going to easily dissect the AFC East.
Well,
go up to a conference championship possibly, and maybe even make it to the. I don't know that they're a Super Bowl team. I mean, Lubie rattled off like 10 teams in the AFC that you could look at and say, okay, they probably have as much of a shot, if not more, than the Miami Dolphins do. What about? I mean, what are you seeing in McDaniel? First of all, do you speak McDaniel at this point? I mean, it's like they say about this whole immigration problem. Well, they should at least learn English. I mean, I know that that's very racist to say, but. And God forbid I should move to another country, which I'm thinking about now. As becomes more and more as the homeowners association fees skyrocket. I'm thinking about that beach house in Santo Domingo somewhere. But anyway, I mean the language of McDaniel, it sounds great. I don't know. I mean, do you know what he's saying? First of all, and second of all, I mean, almost everybody is saying, I mean, the narrative would be about him that this is it, man. I mean, either, as Lubie alluded to, some strange calls and short yardage situations, almost the anti Tony Sperano, as he abdicates the possibility of kicking field goals almost as a matter of routine, shrugs it off. 4th and 7, no problem, I'll go for it. Which is fine. I mean, you like a daredevil in a coach, but what do we make of this guy? Where's he at right now, in your opinion? And is this somewhat of an Ed Ogeron situation where his fanny might be feeling a little bit of heat if it doesn't go well?
You know what? It's an interesting thing, Defo and Lubie, because I think that Mike McDaniel is kind of like the team, that he's got to do better, right? You've got all this talent and you've got this tremendously creative offense, but just like your team, you don't show up in the big games.
Yeah.
It's last year against playoff teams, they were 1-6. They averaged 16 points per game. I mean, that can't happen. 20 points at Buffalo, 19 points at Kansas City. 14 points in Germany, right? A 21-14 game. 17 points in Philly, maybe. I mean, you can't do this. And so I am encouraged by what I see of Mike McDaniel this off season, because I've always said this team needs to play more big boy football and be more physical. And by being more physical, the Jordan Poyer thing about smashing the Dolphins is, hitting them in the mouth and they tend to fold. I've been writing that for like weeks, months before Jordan Poyer said that this team is not tough. And by toughness, I don't mean, deliver a big hit on defense and stand over somebody. I mean, on 3rd and 1, we're running it down your throat. 3rd and 2, we're running it down your throat. 3rd and 4, we're running it down your throat. That's tough. That's physical. That's aggressive. It's something that you wear the whole game, not just in the fourth quarter or on short yardage. And I'm starting to see stuff like that he's making some big boy calls, especially in the red zone. We're going to run the ball. We're going to throw to the tight end. We're going to play a more physical, aggressive style. And that's something that holds up at home, on the road, good teams, bad teams, cold weather, hot weather. I like what I'm seeing from Mike McDaniel this season. So far, in this training camp, I should say. I really like it.
Well, look, and there's always talk of growth and maturing, and not only as players, but as a coach. He's still a young dude. Is he even 40 yet? It scares me to know his age. He is in only year 3. This is year 3 for the system. They have a new defensive coordinator. It's funny because Fangio, you would think, would have brought toughness, but there was such a disconnect with the players and that was it. Look, the game everyone points to, as bad as the offense was versus Tennessee, they also didn't get stops at the end of the game as well. Like, that's something this defense, as talented as it is, struggled at times, especially late in the year, to get that key stop, to give your offense the confidence to end the game, or get the key stop to just end the game. Like, that's what the two things I'm curious about is, can Weaver, because it feels like the defense is rallying around him in a way that they never did for Fangio, and also just Tua. All I'm hearing, and I've always been a big Tua supporter, but all I'm hearing is like he's taken on more of a leadership role. He is more vocal. He seems more confident than ever. He seems more comfortable than ever. And again, it is year 3 for him, the McDaniel system, and he got paid. And for some people, getting paid is ruination. Some people getting paid is that motivation that, look, the team does believe in me, which, again, we've known was his issue with this team early on. Flores did not hide his lack of confidence in him, and McDaniels slowly built it back up. Like, the two of them, both Anthony Weaver for the defense and Tua this year, it feels like they could maybe be difference makers in a way that the Dolphins just didn't have at the end of last season.
Yeah, Lubie, that's good observations. You could be right. Here's the thing about the defense is that you remember last year, they were really excited about Fangio and the system because the players at this time in training camp, Jerome Baker and Javon Holland, and they were just talking about how much more free they felt in the defense and that they could kind of roam around. But by midseason, that stuff stopped, Lubie, as you recall. And Jalen Ramsey is wondering why he can't shadow people. So there was a disconnect eventually. And you're 100% right about that. So maybe Anthony Weaver seems like he's going to connect with the players better. And look, that was the number 10 defense in the league last year. So Fangio knew what he was doing, but he's such an old school coach. He didn't communicate with the players. He didn't accept their input. So they didn't like him. He probably, if they liked him, he might have been able to get more out of that defense. especially situationally, like you're talking about. As far as Tua, he is more of a leader. He is more assertive. You can see this, like, it's tangible. You can see it. But again, we've got to see what you do in the big situations, on the road, and these situations that have been giving you problems. I think the cold weather thing is overblown. I think it's more the opponent and being on the road as opposed to the temperature. But whatever, you got to come through in cold weather games on the road. And so, I like the attitude of what the Dolphins are saying, and I've always liked this team. It's one of my favorite locker rooms in 25 years of covering pro sports. I really, really, really like this team.
Interesting.
But they've got to win. You got to show me some playoff wins.
Yeah.
Boy, you're a hard audience, Chris Perkins.
We've been covering him a long time now.
They could have dug up Bill Arnsparger. He would have been more relatable than Fangio was. Did you do it last year, Chris? Did you write the column? Seemed to be pretty common. I don't assume that you would follow the trend of everybody else, but the general assumption was that the biggest acquisition of the offseason prior to last year was Fangio. That it didn't matter what players they brought in. They could have brought in Lawrence Taylor in his prime, and it was still like, oh, wow, we got Fangio. That was really something. And then, like you said, by midseason, everybody had checked out.
I did.
It was done.
I did write that, and look, I still think that was correct because look at what Vic Fangio did. Now the players didn't like it, and that's the whole other topic of what Dave Hyde wrote about Camp Mike, and this is the softest camp ever, and he doesn't push the players in that way. It's a very player friendly. We're going to take your input. But Vic Fangio, number 10 defense, and again, remember, they didn't have Jalen Ramsey for the first 7 games. Yep. And like Lubie said, the last few games, you don't have Chubb, you don't have Phillips, you don't have Van Ginkel, you don't have Jerome Baker, you don't have Javon Holland all the time. So to finish number 10 while absorbing that 56-point beating at Baltimore, the 48-point beatdown in Buffalo, Fangio knew what he was doing. Again, the players didn't like him, but you finished number 10, missing all that personnel. I'm thinking you know something about football.
Yep.
Couldn't wait to get the hell out of here, man. I mean, that was great.
No.
Not every relationship works out, even when it potentially is favorable or, the tangible results are okay, it was better than it was prior to this guy's arrival here. All right, so that's the scoop. I mean, Training Camp Chronicles. Well done, Chris Perkins, on a day where there's nothing happening. We saw Tua go 5 for 5. I mean, you had to be happy about that if you were a Dolphin fan. Yeah, it does appear that there might be a slight drop-off in quality of quarterback play past Tua.
Oh, God.
As you look at 2 dreadful performances.
Oh, yeah. Are they doing anything about that? I know you have to go, Perk, but I'm sorry.
Boy,
even by preseason standards, that was... Holy crap.
Okay. But
Tannehill? Are you on the Tannehill bandwagon?
Oh, hey, please. I think this is this is kind of like the offensive line thing. This is such an overblown fake boogeyman. This is my column today that, like, I wrote last week, you've got 10 other things to worry about aside from backup quarterback and offensive line. And this backup quarterback thing, look, here's the reality of it. When the backup quarterback comes into the game, right? It's up to everybody else to up their role, right? Tyreek has got to do more. Waddle's got to do more. Chubb, Phillips, like, really? You're gonna think Mike White or Skylar Thompson is gonna lead you to 3 straight victories? Like, let's be realistic here. No, everybody else has to do more. Like, it's just ridiculous that you're. And in the meantime, Tua hasn't even won a playoff game, and nobody says anything. It's outrage that the backup quarterback isn't good enough. Your starter's not good enough. Like, I just don't understand this. The backup quarterback, like, can't the defense win a game? Like, like, come on, like that. Mike White and Skyler, to me, a backup quarterback in the NFL, I look for him over a 4-week stretch, get me to 2-2. Just don't lose the game. Now, if he has to play more than that, he's going to get exposed. When you're going to go 2-3 or 2-4 because he's a backup for a reason, but just don't lose me the game, Skylar Thompson or Mike White. I'm not expecting you to come in and be a Tua clone and make all those sharp, accurate passes. The offense is not going to run the same.
I love your enthusiasm for what's going on out there, Chris. A lot of guys are beaten down now. They're crying and whining. Oh, I got to go to training camp. This really sucks. Wish the preseason was over. No, just the opposite here, right? Which is why we love having you on the show. This enthusiasm, no doubt, will surface in your articles and columns in the Sun Sentinel, and the podcast you're doing sounds good. I mean, people love this stuff. They can't get enough Miami Dolphins. So when is that on? The Deep Dive, Dolphins Deep Dive.
Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. It's usually during the season. It's going to be Tuesday at noon, but during training camp, because the schedule is kind of random. They're playing games on Friday and Saturday. The podcast kind of moves around. I'll always advertise it on Twitter, on social media, X, I guess. You're right. You got to call it X now, I guess. But it's out there. It's out there.
Furonis is involved. Who else did you say?
Furonis. And Dave Hyde. Dave Hyde will be.
Oh, Hyde. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we got everybody. We got all the big guys. We're going to try to get Ira on there. Who knows?
This isn't some low-level, interns that are getting their shot. This is like the top-of-the-line guys at the Sun Sentinel Sports Department. Unbelievable. All right, very good. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Always love being on with you guys. Thanks.
Talk soon.
All right, Chris Perkins, ladies and gentlemen.
Chris Perkins never minces words. He's covered South Florida sports for a long time. I guess he's been a writer for 25 years, as he said there, but he's covered South Florida sports for, it feels like 2 decades, and he's covered the Dolphins for a while now, off and on, consistently for the last few years, and he's honest. Look, they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of potential. The expectation should be 12, 13 wins, a division title, and a Super Bowl appearance or a Super Bowl victory. However, the way we've seen them bow out, the way he's detailed their struggles against the winning playoff caliber teams, this is a huge year for the Dolphins in many ways. That doesn't change expectations. Like he said, he's picking them to win 10. I think they win 11, 12 games. I think they win the AFC East, and they should win a game or two in the playoffs. But I'm not undoubtedly sure about it. We haven't really seen it. Tua's looked better. Tua's looked stronger. He's coming off a season, his first season, I think, ever from college to the NFL, where he played all games in the regular season, played in the playoffs. The offense did struggle against the good teams, and Mike McDaniel needs to their red zone and their short yardage has been a major issue. They have a talented run game. They have talented receivers. They have a talented quarterback. Their offensive line's up and down, and the play calling's up and down. We'll see. Look, to me, the issue is health. It's offensive and defensive line health. When the offensive and defensive line are healthy, they were like the number one team in football in the middle of the season last year. You started having injuries on both sides of the ball, and you saw them go down and down and down and down. We'll see if they can stay healthy this year, because that'll be everything for the Miami Dolphins, and we'll see how they finish out. You can check us out each and every morning talking more Dolphins, talking lots of heat. The Defo Show will be on South Florida Live, Facebook or YouTube. Check us out. Our national podcast. I have a lot coming in the next week or so. The Believe Network, BLEAV.com. Search After Hours. And you can check us out right here with our South Florida content. The Defo Show will be on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey, folks. Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.